Alrighty, y'all. Colby Covington's performance last night against Tyron Woodley was so dominant, it earned him a call from President Trump. We're talking about that right now. What is up, Barnhill family? Welcome back. If you're listening to this and not watching it, then you might be going, why is Nick saying the intro when Steven usually says it? And if you're watching it, you probably see a vacant chair next to me, and I'll explain why. My big bro Steven, who I usually film this show with, is out of town. He's in New Orleans right now, and he kind of got stuck in the hurricane. If you're familiar with the Gulf Coast where we live, we're kind of getting hit right now. We've got hit last week, and now we're getting hit again, and he's right in the middle of it down in New Orleans, so we decided it'd be safest if he just stays there, camps out for a few days, but we still got to bring some content to you guys, and that fight card last night was so insane that we have to talk about it even if I'm just talking to myself. So, what did you guys think about last night? We had such a great card. I couldn't believe that it was a free fight night. I mean, come on. You had Colby Covington, Tyron Woodley. That fight a year ago probably would have been one of the most anticipated, biggest fights the UFC could have made. And as far as the rest of the cards, especially the main card, it was stacked. You had Cowboy Cerrone. Anytime he's on there, it's must-watch TV. Nico Price. If you don't know who Nico Price is, you better know now. I mean, that fight last night was insane. What an absolute war. I thought he was going to take Cowboy out there at the beginning. Johnny Walker out there doing this thing, getting back in the win column against a very game Superman Span. Who else was it? Oh, the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, Khamzat Chimaev. Literally the hottest ticket in all of MMA right now. That makes it 3 wins for him in the UFC in 66 days. He is without a doubt the prospect to be watching. He's the fighter of this year. I think the Khamzat Chimaev train is going to continue to keep rolling, and I'm pretty sure they're going to book him on one of these fight cards coming up on Fight Island next month. Super exciting for him. 17-second knockout against a game veteran in Gerald Mearschart. And then Mackenzie Dern. How about that one? Mackenzie Dern, Ryan DeMarcos. Mackenzie wanted to show off some of that striking she's been working on. She wound up on her butt, and kind of a silly move on Marco's part. She jumped right into it, and Mackenzie Dern did what she does best, which is grapple. She's a jiu-jitsu ace. We got to see high-level jiu-jitsu, the highest level jiu-jitsu that MMA has to offer. I mean, all those transitions she was doing, she cranked on that elbow from every different angle that you could possibly think of, was able to finally get the tap, and that was very impressive on her part. And then the Kevin Holland, that fight, I mean, that was a great fight. Great fight to start the entire card. After the fight, Kevin Holland and Darren Stewart. Sorry, I was drawing a blank on his name. Kevin Holland, he got the nod. He tended to think that he didn't really deserve to win. He talked to Dana White afterwards, said he wants to run that fight back. Anytime you see that where the fighters in the octagon think that the judges got it wrong, especially the guy that won the fight, anytime you see that and they call it out and they say, look, I want to run that back, you know they're a class act. You know they're a real true fighter that understands how tough this sport is. And look, judges aren't perfect. They make mistakes all the time. But if you can right this wrong as the winner of this fight and give Darren Stewart another crack, I think that's very commendable, and I would love to see that fight again because it was a fun one. But the highlight of this night, in my opinion, there's a couple things that you really had to take away from this, and you can't really hit the hot topics on this fight card without starting with Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, this guy he has star written all over him. You talk about the look, and like we said a couple weeks ago, you can either be the Mr. Charming, really good looking guy, or you can be the downright scary guy. And I'm not saying Khamzat Chimaev isn't a looker. I'm sure some people like the way he looks, but he's not going to be landing himself on the cover of GQ magazine anytime soon. I think he does fit that scary bill. I mean, you look at him, everything he says is intimidating. His fight style is intimidating. That's 9-0 he is right now. 6 finishes, TKO TKO or KO and 3 submissions, complete domination over all of his opponents, and that's spanning over 2 weight classes. A lot of people are talking about how he is officially a contender at 170. I agree with that, but he so far has had 3 fights in the UFC, 2 of which were at 185, 1 of which was at 170, and I do believe that he's probably naturally built for 170 and will likely make his initial run at 170. But it's kind of hard to say that he's not a true contender at 185 right now. When you watch him, he's going through these 185ers like it's nothing. He has officially fought 3 times in the UFC, got hit twice, blocked both of those, and the other 2 fights he hasn't been touched. I mean, Gerald Meerschaert is a monster. He has 31 wins, a ton of submissions. He's a game veteran, a beast of the sport, and he didn't even touch him, got knocked out cold, and it wasn't one of those, you're not really sure if he was out or maybe the ref stopped it too early. No, that was a 1-punch knockout, pretty much walk-off, and the ref saw it instantly. The ref saw it from a good angle. I'm glad that he got in there and got in the way of Khamzat getting back onto Gerald Meerschaert and ended that fight right when it needed to be ended. But, I want to know what happens with Khamzat from here. Everybody was saying if he gets past Gerald Meerschaert unscathed, which is a tall order, then next month we're going to book him in Fight Island and probably going to send him in the cage against Demian Maia. It seems that there's a lot of talk right now that maybe Demian Maia isn't the right matchup for him. I'm not willing to concede that yet. I do think that there are a lot of fun matchups, and the whole narrative of it's a blessing and a curse for Khamzat Chimaev that, yes, the UFC has a new star on their hands. They have a new monster that they have to feed, but it might be kind of difficult to feed him, seeing as people are watching him go through these guys like a hot knife through butter, and they can't really deal with his skills. They can't really, there's a lot of tough guys in the sport, but not all of them are willing to take a fight, on the phone call when Dana calls them. They'll say it online. They'll chirp and chirp and chirp on Twitter and Instagram, but when Dana calls them with a fight offer, they're nowhere to be found. I think when Khamzat Chimaev's name comes up, there is going to be people that are a little bit timid to sign that bout agreement. But, he's such a hot star right now. It's almost like back in the day, a couple years ago, when Conor McGregor kind of built the money fight thing up, and everybody, from I think females to 125 men all the way up to heavyweights, were calling out Conor McGregor to try to get this so-called money fight. Khamzat Chimaev isn't exactly a money fight, but he is the hottest prospect in the sport right now. He's the hottest ticket. He's the most active big name that the UFC has right now, and he's very exciting. If you fight him, you sign to fight him, you're going to be in the news, you're going to be in the headlines, and you're going to be on a main card. So while at first I was probably one of those people who thought, it's going to be hard to put him in there with a lot of people because people are going to see just how tough this guy is in his first few fights. He's not getting hit, really good on the ground, really dominant wrestling and control from mount and ground and pound and all that stuff. But now he's showcasing that he is absolutely a striking monster, and he's got the boxing, the booksing as he calls it, and the kicking and everything. He's a very complete fighter, and he's going to be giving a lot of people a lot of problems for the future. But I do see some of the top of the heap watching him, seeing that they can build their name off of him, maybe steal some of that hype that he's created, sort of similar to the Cheeto Vera, Sean O'Malley thing. You saw Cheeto Vera was unknown by a lot of people. O'Malley, of course, well known by a lot of people. And now, after the way Sean O'Malley handled the fight and after the way Cheeto Vera handled the fight, Cheeto Vera now has probably 3 or 4 times as many fans as he had before the Sean O'Malley fight. So there is something to be said for stealing some thunder from somebody. And I think Khamzat Chimaev does have a tough road ahead. But he's definitely game to keep competing against all the best guys out there. And I would love to see what he does in the 185 division as well as the 170 division. I think he's a problem, an absolute problem at 170, and that also goes for 185. I think the 185ers are pretty tough. They're obviously a little bit bigger guys, and that comes with a bigger, harder chin, stronger chin. But look, it doesn't get much tougher than Gerald Meerschaert, and he just knocked him out in 17 seconds with one punch. It wasn't a barrage. It was a single shot. And I think a lot of it has to do with the intensity of Khamzat. He is so intense when he gets in that octagon. You see it in him. He literally will run up and scream right before he's engaging into a fist fight. And that's got to feel very strange for his opponents. But the intensity and the belief that he has in his self and his capabilities is ultimately one of the keys to all of his victories, in my opinion. I can't wait to see what happens. What do you guys think? Where should he go from here? Who should he fight next? I believe that he absolutely earned a spot on the main card of one of these Fight Island cards. I would love to see who they put him up against. Hey, if he doesn't want to cut some weight, stay up at 185. There's a ton of fun that we can have right there. I would love to know who you guys would like to see him fight. And then at 170, if they do go through with that fight, I think Demian Maia is a good option for him. Demian Maia can obviously handle his grappling, and I think Khamzat would clearly have an advantage on the feet. But you're not just going to take out some vet, or maybe you are, like you did Gerald Meerschaert. But Demian Maia is a tough guy. He's the right call out for 170, the top 7 guy, and it doesn't throw Khamzat right into the top 5 mix. He beats Demian Maia, then he takes that 7 spot. I think that's a comfortable, accurate place to place him in there and put him in with the top 10 guys and then let him see how he does at 170. But also, I would like to see him kind of be the guy that is doing something that nobody's ever done, uncharted territories, where he's contesting a bunch of top 10 guys at 170. At the same time, he's contesting a bunch of guys at 185, and he just bounces back and forth. I think there's something to be said for him booking 2 fights at once every time he goes. And if I was the UFC, just on parity alone, I would probably stick to doing that. Book him, let him fight Demian Maia or somebody in Fight Island, and then maybe one more time before the end of the year. Hell, maybe 2 more times before the end of the year if he can get people out of there in 17 seconds again. Tip your hat to him. If you don't know, now you know. He will be one of the biggest stars in the UFC, in combat sports in general in 2021, and this is just a breakout year for this elite level athlete. Moving on to the other parts of the card. I mean, you really can't walk over this card too much. This thing was stacked. It was good to see Johnny Walker get back in the win column. I'd actually, if you go back to last week's video, you can see that I predicted this fight to a T. I said Johnny Walker would get back into the winning column. I thought it would be a tough first round, but I knew the heavy leather these guys were going to be throwing would end in a finish in the first round. It's exactly what happened. I called Johnny Walker would get it done. I was a little bit shaky at first because Ryan Spann looked like he took him out right there at the beginning of the first round. He hit the deck like he was an unconscious fighter. Good eyes on the ref. I can't remember who was calling that one, but they definitely saw something that I didn't see. They let the fight continue to go. Johnny Walker used some great jiu-jitsu defense to escape through the backside, get back up on his feet. That's where he knew he had the best chance to win this fight, and then he got it done. I think one thing that happened was Ryan Spann saw that he was wobbled, and it was smart of him to go towards him and try to take this fight, take advantage of Johnny Walker being dazed. But in my opinion, it's not always best to go try to wrestle somebody in that situation. Sometimes it's best to keep a wobbly fighter, even if they are a higher level striker than you, on the feet, because they're not thinking straight. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. There's no time to stall when you're on your feet like there is in the grappling positions up against the wall and up against the cage. I thought it was a sloppy takedown attempt for Ryan Spann, and it winded up with Johnny Walker kind of resting up against the cage. And you know what happens when you shoot a double leg or you shoot a single leg and your head is exposed on the outside, either side. People will tend to look for strikes there, whether it's on your body or on your head. In this case, Johnny Walker saw a wide open side of the head, and Ryan Spann's corner was calling shots to the back of the head. I didn't see it that way. It looked like he was right there on like the above the ear, the mohawk area. Some of them looked a little bit close, but none of them looked intentional, and I think that was just a bad call on Ryan Spann to do that in the moment, and he paid for it. Johnny Walker looked good. Those elbows right there looked good. It was smart. he was able to overcome that situation where everybody thought he was done, and got his hand raised. I think it did a lot for him to get back in the win column, because he was touted as one of the big prospects a couple of years ago, and people were saying maybe he should fight John Jones next. Maybe he should fight a contender fight against some of these big name light heavyweights. I'm glad they kind of slowed the roll on that. He lost a couple fights and had to go find the right home for him. I think he gave a lot of credit to John Kavanagh after the fight. I believe he thinks he found his home at SBG Ireland, and I'm sure he's very proud of himself, as he should be. I think it was a great performance on his part, and it's always fun because he's such an entertaining guy, such a character, such a personality. Glad to see him back in the win column. Ryan Spann, just a couple of mistakes, and that put him in the loss column, but I think he will bounce back, and he showed that he's clearly down to fight and capable of fighting all the best guys at the light heavyweight division. Excited to see what happens to both of those guys next. Let me know what you think Johnny Walker should do after that big win over Ryan Spann. Oh man, this fight, Donald Cowboy Cerrone, Nico Price, the co-main event of the evening. Now, a lot of people thought that Cowboy had bitten off more than he could chew with Nico Price. And, some people thought that he was a little bit washed up after losing his last 4 fights. And, when you go back and look at all of those, the Conor McGregor fight, that one, 40 seconds, he lost it fair and square. But that was anything could have happened in that fight. If that circumstance didn't happen, that fight wouldn't have ended so abruptly. I think we could have been seeing a different story. I do think Conor probably still would have gotten him out of there in round 1 or 2. But, Anthony Pettis thought the Cowboy had won their fight. And, you go back and you look at some of his last matchups, they were all close matchups, and they were, besides the Conor McGregor one. And then, people throw him Nico Price, or the UFC throws him Nico Price, and people go, Nico Price is an absolute monster, which he is. He's way too big for Cowboy Cerrone. Maybe he is. He's going to get Cowboy out of there quick. He's a fast starter. Cowboy Cerrone's a slow starter. This is a horrible matchup. Why would the UFC try to take down one of their biggest characters, one of their best personalities, one of the living legends in the sport, with a monster like Nico Price that's virtually unknown outside of the serious MMA fans? Well, first off, if you don't know who Nico Price is, if you didn't know who he was, now you definitely know. That guy is must-see TV, very exciting fighter. Go back and watch the first 2 minutes of that fight. He threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at Cowboy Cerrone. And I'm surprised Cowboy was able to weather that storm, because I don't think a lot of guys would be able to. And Cowboy is notoriously a slow starter, and Nico Price do that. He figured if he could bring a big enough storm, a big enough hurricane. It is hurricane season. We're dealing with it right now. Been rainy all day. I hate that. But similar to Nico Price's style, he figured, hey, if I just come at this guy so tough, there might not be anything left standing by the time I'm done with him, and I can cruise into a victory against a living legend. And Donald Cowboy Cerrone said, not so fast, buddy. Look, that fight, in my opinion, if you go to the scorecard, if you go to most people's opinion and people that understand the sport, Nico Price would have won the fight if that first round didn't happen to take a point away from him through the eye pokes. He poked Cowboy in the eye the first time, and then Jason Herzog, second time it happened about a minute later, pulled a point just like that. In my opinion, I like that rule. I think it keeps fighters more honest. It keeps hands closed. It keeps fingers pointing towards the ceiling instead of towards their opponent when they are engaging, and it just makes for a more honest fight. And I wish more referees would take points with less warnings. A lot of times you'll see nut shots or crotch shots or groin shots, and there's a warning, and then it happens again. There's another warning. It's like, how many warnings are you going to give these guys before there's going to be some consequences that they have to pay for? I liked how Jason Herzog, he took a point immediately, and I would have to say that point being taken away from Nico Price ultimately decided this fight, because Nico came out in the second round with a ton of gas left in the tank, left it all on the line, floored it 100 miles an hour again. I believe he won that round. And then round 3, Cowboy, he was still there, still hanging out, and was able to put together some great combinations. I would have liked to see him fight a little bit more like the 3rd round in the first 2 rounds because, hey, maybe it would have been a Cowboy victory. But I think the ref got it right, taking a point away in the 1st round, and I think the judges got it right with a draw. That was, if you look at my main card predictions from last week, that's the only fight I got wrong. I had Cowboy winning. Turns out it was a draw. That's just like in roulette when it goes to a 0 or a 0-0. Everybody loses on predictions because nobody predicts a draw, but still a great fight. Nico Price has a very exciting future. Cowboy Cerrone, obviously, living legend. Can't wait to see what both of these guys do next. Who do you think these two fellas should fight next? Because I think there's a lot of fun at the 170 division, and there's a fun few fights for both of them. I would love to know what you guys think about that. So after that one, the co-main event, we walked right into this main event. This was insane. Colby Covington, Tyron Woodley. The animosity was real. The heat was real. It turned out to be a bit of like a Trump 2020 versus BLM type of thing. You could see in the pre-fight antics and the weigh-in and all that stuff. They had their merchandise on, their red hats for Colby, and even the red hat for Tyron, but it didn't say "Make America Great Again" or anything like that. It said something like I don't even remember what it said, but he had Black Lives Matter shirts on. So it was definitely a polarizing fight. These two guys are polarizing figures. You either love them or you hate them, but they're must-see TV. They are very exciting fighters, and Tyron Woodley was the champ of the world, baddest dude on the planet, only losing now his last 3 fights to the baddest dudes on the planet. Kamaru Usman, ever heard of him? Colby Covington, ever heard of him? Gilbert Burns, ever heard of him? All the 3 baddest guys on the planet, 2 of which have held UFC gold. One of them is going up to fight Kamaru Usman to try to hold that UFC gold. Tyron Woodley, he looked a little bit out of it like he did in his last couple of fights. He looked a little gun shy. And you know, the first round, I would have to say that he looked better in the first round of this fight with Colby Covington than he had in the previous fights that he had with Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman. He looked extra gun shy then. It looked like he really wanted to take Colby's head off. And I think just the wrestling, the successful takedowns that Colby was able to land kind of made him shell up a little bit and almost accept defeat before the fight was even over. By the time round 3 rolled around, you saw that he was more flat-footed. He didn't really seem like he had too much confidence in himself, and that is not the type of style and the type of energy you want to be bringing into the cage when you have Colby Chaos Covington coming at you full speed ahead. I mean, you should see, I presume you guys watched this fight. Colby Covington didn't take one step backwards. This guy, the pace, insane. The cardio, insane. I think the work ethic that this guy's putting in, he's found his home. And, you know, he's kind of going the professional boxer route where I'm not going to go to a big team. I'm not going to go to this large organization and work with other pros. I'm going to go all the attention's on me. I'm going to bring in fighters that work for the styles that I'm going up against. He knew the skills that Tyron Woodley possesses, and he knew how to defeat him. And look, he was the better man. Tyron Woodley's still a legend of the sport. I think Dana White's hinting at Tyron Woodley possibly needing to retire after this. I don't know if I see it the same way. I can see how they could make that argument, and I wouldn't disagree. I think it's up to Tyron Woodley to see what he wants to do next. But it is hard going off of 3 losses after you've been the world champion because you're probably never going to climb that mountain again. I don't know, Tyron Woodley, maybe he moves up to 185. Maybe he starts with a new fresh coat of paint up there at 185. There's, I'm sure, a lot of fun matchups for him up there. And I think the speed advantage that he has and the ability to wrestle would serve him well, and he definitely has the knockout power. Look, if Khamzat Chimaev can knock people out at 185, I have a feeling Tyron Woodley, the former champ, could as well. But now, look, what we thought we knew turned out to be true. Colby Chaos Covington is the real deal. In my opinion, he's the number one contender at 170. Gilbert Burns holds that spot as the number one contender because he is technically fighting for the belt, makes him the number one contender. But there is nobody that gets to jump the line. I don't care if his name is Gamebred Masvidal. I don't care if it's Leon Edwards. I don't care if it's Khamzat Chimaev. They don't get to jump the line, in my opinion, over Colby Covington after what he just did to the former world champion, former baddest dude on the planet, and Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley has never been finished like that. I don't know if he's ever been finished, especially not since he was the champion. And, you just go look at that performance. He literally broke his ribs and made him quit, verbally tap, which is something a champion with the champion mentality of Tyron Woodley, they just don't like to do that. They would rather die in there than quit. And to see the pain that Tyron was in that was brought to him by Colby Covington shows you that Colby's pace, Colby's style is brutal. And I think the only people you can stick Colby in the cage with now is Kamaru Usman and or the winner of Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns. My early prediction on that, Kamaru Usman probably gets his hand raised and we see a rematch. But Colby Covington seems to be pretty eager to compete again, and there's a lot of bad blood with him and a lot of the 170 guys. As you guys know, he's a polarizing figure. Most of the guys in that division hate him, hate the character that he is, but he is very entertaining, and he moves the needle most definitely for the UFC. He said he's down to fight Gamebred Street Judas, as he calls him, Street Jesus, as a lot of the street calls him. I would love to see that fight. I think it's a great way for Colby Covington and Masvidal to stay active, and it would work perfectly to see who the next contender for the belt is while the belt is being contested between Gilbert Burns and Usman, and there's clearly two top guys in Masvidal and Covington. Nate Diaz fight's always there from Masvidal. BMF's always there. I think it's more important that we see Masvidal and Covington get in there and sort this thing out. They used to be roommates. I mean, come on. The storyline behind that is insane. I don't know, guys. I would love to hear what you guys think. Should Masvidal fight Colby next? Should Usman get past Gilbert Burns? Should he fight the winner of that? What do they do with Khamzat Chimaev? So many questions. I need your answers. Let me know. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. As always, like, comment, subscribe. We greatly appreciate you. For my co-host that couldn't be here today, thank you so much. Wish him well. He's in New Orleans. Hope that he has a safe travel back. And we'll catch you later on in the week. Have a great day. Peace.